Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends and welcome to my June wrap up. Hello. I'm just getting back from camp with my friend's family, so we are a barefaced, little bit sunburned. It's actually not too bad. Didn't get that from hiking or being outside too much. It was actually from when we went out to eat. We sat on the dining porch there, and we started out under the shade, but by the time we were done eating, ended up getting some color, but that's okay. That's okay. I knew I should have put sunblock on before we left, but that's how it went. But anyway, we are going to go over my stats for reading in June, as well as my top 5 favorite reads. If you are a new viewer to my channel, well, I'm so happy to have you. Thank you for being here. And I do weekly reading wrap-ups where I talk about everything that I read. I will link that playlist up here. And so I'm not going to be talking about all of the books that I read. As you will see, I read quite excessively. I read quite a bit. So when I do my monthly wrap-ups, I don't talk about every single book that I read. I just talk about my favorites for a little bit and a little bit about how the month went and everything. And so if you want to know more about every single book that I read, those weekly wrap-ups are the place to go. And I also talk a lot more in depth in those, where for these weekly for this monthly wrap-up, I'll try to be a little bit like briefer in my thoughts and not go quite as in depth, though we'll see. Sometimes I still manage to overshare as it is, which, you know, that's what a lot of you are here for anyway, so I don't feel too bad about it. But yeah, one of the other things I want to share, one of my fun projects, I shared this last month. I shared the crafts that I was getting done, the baby blankets I was working on, and this month I didn't finish any other blankets yet, but I did check out this new cross stitch pattern maker. She was pointed out to me or suggested to me by Crystal at Crystal's Bookish Life. Her name is Colorfully Sarah, and she creates these patterns that are just so much fun. And I really did not have time to do a cross stitch pattern this month. I have a crafters retreat coming up in July, which, well, this current month, that is when I should save my project for, but I just was feeling really like overwhelmed with how much work I had to do, and that usually leads me to wanting to work on a craft. And so I bought this pattern from her that was these hot air balloons, and this is the pattern that I ended up finishing, which didn't actually take too much. You guys know, if you have seen some of the other ones I've done, I really enjoy patterns that leave a lot of empty space or use the negative space as part of the pattern. And she does these really cool kind of like repeating patterns, but using like bright colors and things. So this is the one that I finished, which is so cute. If I remember to, I will tag her in my video, or else just look up Colorfully Sarah on either Instagram or YouTube. She actually has a channel as well. But I loved this pattern, and I did start another one at camp, but I'm gonna have to firmly hold off at least for a little while, at least until the crafters retreat, when I have some time set aside, because I do have quite a bit of work to do in the next couple of weeks. But I just want to show off the craft that I did in June, because that's always fun to recap before I get into the books as well. And this one's so cute. I can't wait to add it to my wall with all of my animals and everything. I usually do cross stitch animals or nature scenes, and she has some really fun patterns that are like objects. Again, lots of bright colors, which is fun. But yeah, let's get into my stats really quick. When I got home, I just got home this morning, so I'm filming a little later in the day than I normally like to do, but I took some time to just decompress and have a snack, have my coffee. And then I was getting my journal pages done. And I, of course, love working on my journal with my stickers and my pens and everything. And it was really fun reflecting on what my favorites ended up being this month, which are just actually kind of quite the variety. And I mean, two of the favorites that I'm about to talk about, I mean, it doesn't surprise me because these authors, whenever they have a new book, their books usually end up on my favorites. But two of the books that are favorites, I actually was very surprised because one of the authors, I haven't read them in probably 5 years, and the other one, I'd never read them before, so I had no idea what to expect. So that was really fun. But anyway, let's talk about my stats real quick. Also, I'll show you quickly. Here's my journal page for the June stats, which I'm going to add some more flowers and stuff in here. Like I said, I needed to get this done so that I could film the video. But yeah, here's the July starting page too, which I showed that off in my July TBR. But okay, so for June, my stats, I read 28 books, and it was 9,687 pages, which is right in line pretty much with what I've been reading. One less book than last month, but the same amount of pages, basically. In fact, a little more pages, which makes sense because one of the books that I needed to annotate was a reread of Pam Godwin, which was 600 and some pages. So right there, that's kind of the page difference. It makes sense. The formats of the books were, I had 15 ebooks, 4 e-arcs, 4 ALCs, 2 audiobooks, and then 11 physical books, of which, most of those were annotated books that I was doing. The subgenres of the books were 9 contemporary romance, 7 dark romance, which that was actually surprising to me, just as you guys know, as I'm saying this is reflecting, is that I read more dark romance this month than I did in May when we actually had the Mafia Romance Readathon. So that was kind of crazy to me, that I read so much dark romance this month. But again, a lot of those were books that I needed to annotate, which were picked by my patrons, so that was kind of funny to me. All right, I had 8 fan fictions. I had 2 historical romance. Both of those were for book club books, because we have book club at the very beginning of June, which was a holdover from May. I had 1 sci-fi romance, and then I had 1 non-romance as well. Then the ratings for books this month were, I had 3 6-star reads, though those were all rereads that I was doing, that I was annotating. I had 6 5-star reads. I had 3 4.5-star reads. I had 8 4-star reads. I had 4 3.5-star reads. I had 3 3-star reads. And I had 1 2.5-star read. And I'll just tell you guys that 2.5-star read was the non-romance that I read. And this was the one that I actually ranted a bit about last week. I had some of you who watched that make some fun comments, because it was the reread as well of West by Edith Pateau, of which I called an abomination. So thank you all for thinking that was funny along with me. But yeah, those were the stats for everything. So still pretty solid. And yeah, there were some really good books in here. So let's talk about my 5 favorite ones, which is always the best part, right? So the first book that is a 5-star read and one of my favorites was actually a book for book club. And it was A Duke in the Night by Kelly Bowen, of which I did talk pretty in depth in, book club with Crystal. Our Rake Appreciation Society was on, man, when was it? The 6th of June or something like that, whichever was the first Wednesday in June. Let me look here. Oh, it was the 3rd of June when we had book club for that. And this book was about, I listened to it on audio. It was narrated by Ashford McNabb, and it had August and Clara were the two characters. And we have August, who he is a made man. His father had kind of run the family into the ground, and he has a sister who he would do anything for her. He just wants her to live a wonderful life. But his sister does really want to it's really hard. His sister's like a bit of a blue stocking, but not in necessarily the like, I want to storm Parliament type of way. She just wants to be more involved in the family business. And August more so just wants to provide everything for her until she finds a husband, and then, make sure she has a good match and let a husband provide for her. And it's the reason why I connected with this so much. And I know that August, it was very frustrating for some people just based on like reviews that I saw and a little bit of how book club was talking about him. Because he, of course, can feel very misogynistic just with the way that I even described that, of like he wanted, that for his sister. But as you get to know him in the story, a lot of that comes from how much he had to fight to get wealth back in the family after the way his father spoiled it all away, after the fact that his father was in like debtor's prison, and the fact that his younger sister, there was a time when she actually was in the debtor's prison, like with the father. And he just doesn't ever want her to have to worry about anything again. And so the fact that she wants to work, he just can't wrap his mind around. It isn't that he's trying to be cruel or belittle anything she would want to do. He just does not understand why she would want to work. He just can't understand it. So yes, that can be frustrating. But then we have Clara, and Clara and him also have like a bit of a history too. They've known each other for a long time. And she has this bit of a secret where her family actually really like encouraged, like her father had actually given her mother this like work to do, that she wanted to do. I hope I'm explaining it. I'm probably not explaining this very well. I'm so sorry. But basically it was like her father was very empowering of his children, his wife and his children, to be what they wanted to be. So he's very progressive in that way. But what I love about Clara, and this is why I really, really like the story, is that she is a blue stocking, but she does it in these very like quiet ways. In fact, she even runs a school, but it's kind of like a covert school. It's treated as kind of like a ladies' academy that girls are able to come to, and their families don't really know what they're being taught there. And they're being taught subtly how to get more skills that they'd be able to do the trades that they want to do. And obviously then the way that August's sister, I think Anne is her name, she gets herself into this school. And when August finds out whose school it is that she got into, he follows her there because he also happens to have some business that he's doing with Clara's family. And once he gets there, he starts to find out what this school really is about. And he is, a little bit appalled by it, but he's also willing to learn more about like what's happening there and like what the point of it all is. So anyway, again, I probably did a horrible job of explaining this, but the things that I loved about it again is that at his core, August has a good heart, and a lot of his, what appears to be misogyny on the outside, for him, it's not a thing where he doesn't believe his sister can do these things. It's that he doesn't want her to have to do them. It's that he wants to provide for her. He wants to find a husband who will provide for her. And he doesn't want her to have to work because of where they came from and how hard he had to work to make sure she never did. And Anne, she's not able to articulate that back to him, what she wants. And so they're just not meeting in the right place. And it takes Clara kind of coming at it from a place of privilege herself, who she has started this school and she is from a family of privilege as well, to explain to August that yes, some women who have everything still want to feel useful. And it's not just, you know, poor women who want to work, which again, it's so hard to just explain that with words. But anyway, and there's also some mutual pining going on. And I don't know, I just found it to be very lovely. And this book doesn't have the best of ratings, and there's plenty of people who don't agree. But I loved how Kelly Bowen wrote this book, and I definitely want to read more of her again. And there were things about August that reminded me of Elisa Kleypas' Hero. I'm not saying he is exactly like one. Nobody writes anyone exactly like a Kleypas hero, but Kleypas, of course. However, there were just aspects about how he was written and how he thought about Clara and how obsessed he became with her. And then also just how their like story played out that felt reminiscent of a Kleypas novel to me. So that's why it was 5 stars. All right. Then one I have talked a couple times about now this month that I adored was Maggie Moves On by Lucy Score. This was a total surprise to me, but this was one that I annotated for one of my patrons. And I learned later that she actually hadn't read this one yet either. So really good blind pick on her part as well, because this is the one I was mentioning earlier, I haven't read a Lucy Score in ages. I read her many, many years ago, and they were okay, a couple that I'd read by her, but they were just so. And maybe it's because I have been reading a lot of dark romance this month. And I had just read a few kind of just like okay contemporary romance, but this book was so funny. It was a rom-com, and like the humor was just hitting me just right. And that's the thing with rom-com, if the humor isn't working for you, it's not going to work for you, right? And there's nothing you can't force that to happen, but something about Maggie Moves On was working for me. And the hero is instantly enamored with her, and he's so blunt about it, and I was obsessed with it. So in Maggie Moves On, we have Maggie. She is a like home renovator. She flips houses with her gay ex-husband, okay? And they are in this small town I think they're in Idaho or something like that. And our hero in this, Silas, he is supposed to be like the contractor who she's partnering with for this house. And when he meets her, I actually love it. I almost have this line like memorized in my brain, kind of where he sees her and there's this description of he starts by looking at her feet and he works his way up. And the way it's described is that he was in love with her before he ever made it to her face, which I just love because he's describing her like work boots and she's wearing these pants that are like stained with paint. And it's just all these things he's picking up about her that he realizes she's the one who like gets nitty gritty on the job. She isn't just going to be some prissy person ordering him around. So as he's describing her from toe to head, he's like, he was in lust with her before he ever saw her face. So, you guys know, like, I'm kind of past the point of really enjoying super lustful, lust-based romance anymore. But literally, it was so clever how Lucy Score wrote this, because saying the phrase, he was in lust with her before he ever saw her face, but yet Lucy Score wasn't describing him looking at her tits or looking at her ass. She was describing him noticing her work boots, her dirty jeans, her paint-stained clothes. So like he's in lust with the fact that she's a hard worker, not with her body, right? So I just thought that was so clever. So, and then even after just like a couple conversations, like he has already texted his family, who his family was hilarious. He actually has a mixed family where like his mom and dad have divorced, married to other people, and his parents are friends, and they will like get together once a month for a big like double family dinner. So like his siblings, his step siblings, they're like all family. And oh, it just was so great. I love that kind of attitude, that kind of just, so it's just big. It was great. There was animals around. He has a dog who is just adorable. We love him. There are kittens who get adopted through here, and just like pets everywhere. It was so great. But anyway, after like one conversation with her, he like tells, I think it's his sister, he's like, I've met my future wife. And they're like, dude, she's only going to be here for a couple of months and she's moving on. Like, which again, that's the title of the book, but he's like, she's going to flip this house and be gone. And he's like, no. That's my future wife. Like, and then the next level, and again, this is all in the beginning of this book, which I know this isn't going to work for everybody because it's going to feel too cheesy or whatever. But he starts flirting with her and she's like, am I going to have a problem with you? Like, are you flirting with me too much? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, I think we're meant to be. And he says that to her and she's just like, no, like, you're working for me. That's not going to happen. And he's like, oh, I think it is. But he's so charming that she never takes it as like, you know, she's never like, whatever, get out. She's just like, I'm not going to be here long enough for that. And he's like, oh, I'm going to convince you. You're never going to want to leave. Like, it's like he has this whole town, basically, her ex-husband, his family, like all in on getting Maggie to want to stay in this town very quickly. So I thought it was just so great. It was so heartwarming. Of course, eventually it gets sexy too. But first, the banter is great. The like found family for her, the pets, the location, and then there's kind of a mystery about this house as well. Not like mystery enough where like this isn't a suspense or anything. There's just a mystery about why this house ended up for sale. And that kind of plays into, because like she's doing her like home renovations and making YouTube videos about them. So we're trying to figure out that for like her videos and stuff. So I love this. Like, honestly, it was almost a 6-star book for me. And because I have so few 6-star reads this year so far, this may end up still on my favorite list of the year. Like, we'll see what else gets read this year, because of the books this month, I ended up putting this one on my favorite of the month as well. This was my favorite one I read this month. I loved it. Okay, next up was West of Forever by Corinne Michaels, and I don't want to talk about this one too much. I have talked about it ad nauseum, I feel like, at this point, because I like was hyping it up so much before it came out, and now I've talked about it like so many times. But I did really, really enjoy this. This is the start of her new series, Heartstone Ranch. This was rival families. This is a widower. He has a like teen daughter, and these two, yeah, they're rival families. Their families hate each other. But in the beginning, Tristan actually kind of rescues Lark from the side of the road. It's raining. She has a flat tire, and she's in a really dangerous position, and he takes her home. And of course, they have known each other their whole lives. He was actually married to her best friend's sister, and Sadie Jo, his daughter, ends up really liking Lark, and Lark gives Sadie Jo a lot of advice for her chickens. And Tristan and Lark, after he has like rescued her from the side of the road, they end up kind of bumping into each other a couple more times as well, and eventually deciding to have kind of these secret rendezvous on Infinity Ridge, which is this ridge between their two ranches, and having secret meetups because they want some no strings attached loving between the two of them that they're going to keep a secret. Meanwhile, their families hate each other. So how can there ever be a future between them? And I will say in this story, we don't fully unravel how things got to the point that they got. It kind of reminds me a bit of the Haven and the Baileys. Oh my gosh, the last 2 times I've talked about this, I kept forgetting the Haven brothers. I could remember the Baileys, but not the Havens. So Claire Kingsley, if you remember Claire Kingsley series, the Bailey brothers and the Havens, it kind of gives you that vibe where there's this like century long fight between the families or whatever. But not all the members of all the families hate each other with equal disdain. And definitely by the end of this, when things work out between them, we've made some progress. But there definitely are hints at some wrongs that were done even in this generation. Like there's something that clearly Lark's brother did that hurt one of Tristan's sisters, that we're going to need to unravel in future books. And I can't wait to read them. Like, I really, really like these two. So, yeah, I'm just a big fan of Corinne Michaels. She's still one of the ones that, you know, how I've said, like, now that I've, like, cracked the formula of, like, Kristen Proby, it's kind of hard to like her books as much for me. Like, I still enjoy them, but it's not quite the same. Like, Corinne Michaels is still someone that she changes up her formula from book to book enough that I don't always feel that it is the same thing again and again, you know, and that feels good. Okay. Next up, I just want to briefly mention, of course, I have a fanfic that was a favorite this month as well. And this one, the one that was my favorite this month was Staring at the Sun by Nerve Itch. And this one was very emotional, very angsty. And in this, so this one takes place post book 6, where Shane and Ilya are both playing on the Centaurs. And it begins with Ilya being injured, and he wakes up in the hospital, and he doesn't have any memory of just the last game. So it isn't like an amnesia of like he's forgotten that he's with Shane or any of that stuff. He just doesn't remember what happened in the last game. And he's hurt very badly, and you know, different members of the team are shuffling through, and then Shane shuffles through, and his, you know, in-laws shuffle through, but nobody's telling him what exactly happened, what injury, what fight, what happened that he ended up here. They won't fully tell him, and he doesn't fully remember. But as you continue to read this story, the pieces start to fall into place of what led to these serious injuries for Ilya, and, you know, what could have possibly pushed someone into hurting him so badly. And were they trying to hurt Ilya this badly is also the question. And yeah, I know one of these times it won't be one of these super sad ones that I love so much, but I just really did. And I shouldn't say super sad. This one wasn't like super sad because, you know, there's not a major forgetting, and there's not, you know, no one else is really that hurt or any of that stuff. It's just a lot of the angst and a lot of people being homophobic and awful and all that jazz and everything. But it also has a lot of really good, it also has a lot of that really good, like, vengeance almost, or like justice of like getting to see them be together and be happy, and it just feels like warm and gooey inside when it all works out, you know? And that's why I love this one so much. It makes me happy. So that was my favorite fanfic of the month anyway, which is great. Okay, and then the final book that was my favorite was Try Again, Baby by Julia Wolf. And I did just talk about this one, so I won't talk too much here, but this is the first book in her Wells Brothers series, and this one was a secret baby for Ben Wells and Mazzy. And they end up having a one-night stand when their plane has to divert, and they end up having to spend the night in, I don't remember which city they have to stay in. But then when they get back to the States, Mazzy finds out she's pregnant, and when she makes the trip to Colorado to try to tell Ben that she's pregnant, she runs into Roman instead. Roman being Ben's twin. And she didn't know Ben had a twin. And so when she says, I'm pregnant, Roman threatens her that if she tries to talk to him again, he'll sue her, and that she's absolutely lying. And Roman doesn't think for a second, apparently, that it could be Ben. And Mazzy, being, struggling and being poor, doesn't know that Ben has a twin, so thinks that this is Ben telling her, I don't want anything to do with you, and don't talk to me again. And so she takes that at face value and doesn't try again. And then 5 years later, Mazzy's cousin is actually a sports reporter. And now Mazzy is living in Colorado. She's now lost her father. And Ben and Mazzy's daughter is 4.5. And this cousin actually goes to confront Ben. Because she's so disgusted that Ben didn't want anything to do with his little girl. And Ben is absolutely flabbergasted, had no idea, and is just, absolutely dumbfounded. And I'll be honest, it takes way too long in the conversation for him not to think about, like, you have a twin fucking brother, so let's get a bit faster to this point. Now, another point to be made is that when Roman turned this woman away, this was when he was still playing rugby. This was before he has had his own surprise pregnancy and now has a wife and one kid and another on the way. So Roman is a much softer, gentler man now than he was 5 years ago as well. So he feels like an absolute shithead as well. But he also never told Ben about this situation, or we wouldn't be here. So there's a bit you got to jump over in the beginning, but in true Julia Wolf fashion, every bit of pain that she puts you through, every bit of screwing the knife in that hurts, she will pay you back tenfold in absolute adorableness, in sweetness, in precious moments. But it does hurt quite a bit. And when you're sitting in it in the moment, I won't pretend otherwise. Like, there's pain, but there's really beautiful moments later on too that I just love. So good. And I can't wait to see which brother she does next. I can't wait. So it's going to be great. So there you go. That is my June. That is what I read. That were my favorites. I'm really looking forward to July. I just got some surprise news just the other day that I don't know if it will if you guys will find out about it in July or if it'll be in August, so I can't say anything about it yet. But I just got some fun stuff added that I can't wait, and I'm going to make room for, so I can't wait for it to happen. And yeah, I got lots of busy stuff in my life in July, but also lots of great books coming, of course. So it's going to be wonderful. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, you guys. You are the best. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hype this video if you think to do it. Tell me what your favorite read of June was. Let me know what you're looking forward to in July, and we'll see you next time.